Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. Indian political activist Mahatma Gandhi beautifully summed up how our internal belief system and the thoughts we generate eventually become our identity. My guest today, Vidhi Patle, is an anesthesiologist and therapist who is combining her medical and psychotherapy experience to help people write their own destinies by overcoming negative self-talk. This is E3. Engage and empower with empathy. Hi, Vidhi. Welcome to the show today. It's so nice to have you here. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, given your unique background, your experience in the medical field, but now most recently in the psychotherapy field. So let's talk a little bit about your career to kind of get this dialogue kicked off. What would you say has been the most rewarding part of that journey for you, and what has also been the most challenging part of that journey?
Thank you, Rebecca. It is my absolute pleasure. So, I have been an anesthetist for 24 years. So, cancer patients have been a part of it because I've regularly looked after cancer patients in various ways. Sometimes it is to do therapeutic treatment, as in take away, remove the cancer. On the other extreme, it is for palliative treatment that we cannot cure them, but say something in the body is causing pain because the cancer is progressing, or we cannot cure it completely, but do palliative measures for them, which will at least make them a bit more comfortable. So I have looked after different kinds. So some people are very fit, and we're just taking the cancer out, and we know it's highly likely they're going to do very well in life. And some people, we know it's going to be much harder, but at least it's still making it better. I think I will talk about the challenges first. The most challenging to me personally, and probably many doctors, would be the element of helplessness that we have, because there's only so much we can do. It depends on their stage of cancer, how far it has spread, what kind of cancer it is. So we can only do as much as medicine has advanced. Also, as much facilities we have available at our disposal, really. Another challenge, I think, is it doesn't get easier. No matter how long we do it, there are people, and it still is very heartbreaking to have these conversations sometimes because they are so high risk or at the end of life. And we sit down, and when I talk to them, it's what they are going through, what the families are going through. Have had to, over the years, learn to ground myself and not let this affect me so I can carry on doing my work. I've started meditating more, and because it used to affect me a lot more. I used to do a lot of intensive care as well before. And in intensive care, I used to see these things a lot more, and it would really affect me. I would come home and cry at times, and I did.
Mm.
I actually stopped doing intensive care unit after 10 years. So I think I have a lot of respect for my intensive care colleagues who keep on doing this, because
Mm.
it wasn't for me. It was affecting me. I was coming home with it. I couldn't shake that off. Rewarding, I mean, if you take away the hard work and the intensity of the work, which is in every job, let's face it, like a builder has intense work, everybody has stress. So if you take that away, it is all rewards, basically. It is the gratitude. It's little things, if they when they're in the recovery room, when they're waking up after anesthesia, and if they just hold my hand, and if they tell me that I felt calm straight away after talking to you, or thank you for looking up, and they're overwhelmed, it's a different feeling altogether. It is a very rewarding job.
Yeah, and I truly feel that people that go into the medical profession are doing it because they want to help people and they want
Yeah.
to experience that sense of gratitude and serving others. Is that something that you kind of carried from your childhood, or how did you decide to move in that direction?
So I think so first to become a doctor and then to become a therapist. This is my life purpose now, to become a therapist. Although I've spent almost 25 years being a doctor, I am still practicing and I will continue to. But I think therapy is what I'm meant to do. I think it was about 10 years ago when I had a major spiritual epiphany when I was not very good at finishing my homework. I was always late on my homework. And sometimes, when there's larger amounts of homework, you get given 2 or 3 weeks to do it, that this is only due after. And I had left it last minute, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to finish it over the weekend because I think we were meant to go somewhere on Sunday, and I knew I wouldn't finish it. And I couldn't tell my uh, mother that I haven't finished it because, you had 3 weeks to do it. So I can't say I'm not coming. I was only 10 years old, so I wasn't at the age where they could have left me at home. So I was thinking in my head that what should I tell the teacher on Monday? Because I was going to a really strict school. When I was growing up in India, schools were very, very academic, very strict. So I was really nervous, and I was thinking what I should give as an excuse, with the brain of a 10-year-old, So I was thinking I said, I thought I'll say I've got headache. And I was preparing the dialogues to make my lie convincing. I was very imaginative about it. And I kept thinking about the headache. And in a few hours, I had headache, and it lasted a few hours. Again, it was a very tricky situation. I couldn't tell anybody because I didn't understand why I sort of thought, was I just thinking about headache and I got the headache? And that stayed for a few hours. And then that happened a couple more times because it was a regular thing that I was late on homework. And then one time I thought about a tummy upset, and that I'll say I was this because I was scared of headache because I thought every time I think of headache, I get a headache, so I'm not going to think of headache. This time I thought of tummy upset, like we used to call it loose motions in India. So I thought this is what I'm going to tell the teacher. The idea wasn't much of vocabulary in the primary school, at least when I was growing up. So I thought I'm good. So I started getting cramps in my tummy a few hours later or the next day or something like that. So then I got super scared. I thought, if I think of something, it happens to me. And then I saw that, I observed that on other people around me, my friends and my family. If somebody would say something, it would happen to them. So this was a very silent observation. I didn't discuss this with anybody. I got very aware of the fact that my words, actually, these were not even words. So my thoughts have power. So it was my self-talk. I was talking to myself, but I was a very, very imaginative, a very creative kid. So I was like trying to, make up stories in my head, like kids do. Like all kids, everybody is creative at that age. We dampen it down as we grow up, but we are all born the same way. So I realized, and I got really scared of this. So I got so stubborn about I would never say anything negative in my sentences. If somebody would ask how's everything, it would never be, anything could be happening, but it would always be great. No, because I knew that, if my thoughts do this much, then my words are way more powerful. So I would never say anything. Fast forward a few years, I had just come to UK. I'd been in the country for 3 years, 4 years now, and I was working on intensive care unit. And I got tuberculosis from a patient. So tuberculosis is a very indolent disease. It grows very silently, doesn't cause much symptoms. So in some people, it can be dormant. Like other bacteria, doesn't cause a very quick, acute response that it gets picked up. It doesn't. It can just grow in the body very, very slowly, and it can get picked up after years, after months at least. It got picked up when I changed my job, but then later on we found out. So I had a CT scan which showed that I had tuberculosis. So they said tuberculosis gets treated with 4 drugs. You have to take 4 drugs for 6 months because it's a very tough disease to kill. Yeah, it hides in your system. It doesn't go away, and it can go to sleep, and you think it has gone because the symptoms have gone. But when immunity is low or when there's stress in life, it will come back up. So it has to be treated properly. So it needs a 6-month treatment. That is a standard thing, right? So I started my treatment. So 4 drugs for 6 months, I was told. Yeah. So when it got picked up in me, they did a CT scan just to be sure that is it this. And then I got diagnosed. So the result came as I had bronchiectasis. So that is abnormal widening of your air ducts. Yeah, it is one of the few diseases in medical textbooks which has the word irreversible in the definition itself. Sometimes some textbooks will give progressive, some will say irreversible. So when my first CT scan came, it said it was moderate to extensive bronchiectasis, right? Then I get started on this treatment. So the lab result came back few weeks later after I started my treatment. Then they found that it was a drug resistant tuberculosis. So the 4 drugs that I was meant to take for 6 months, one of it, the strain of tuberculosis was resistant to it, right? So I only had 3 drugs remaining. So the 3 drugs, so they said I will have to take treatment for 9 months now. Yeah, because it's a tough disease. So you have to take it longer because you're not taking all 4. So then they put me on that. And after 3 weeks after that, one of the other drugs, one of the 4 basic drugs, standard drugs for treatment, I got hepatitis from it. So all my liver function was going off, my clotting was off, everything was off. I was sick, I was vomiting constantly. I lost a lot of weight. I had to be hospitalized for just a couple of days, but I had to stop medication and then they did the bloods and they found. So now out of the 4 drugs, I couldn't take 2 drugs. Because one, it was resistant to, the second one, my body couldn't tolerate. So they added a 3rd drug now. Now we were getting into non-standard therapy of tuberculosis, right? The standard, which has decades of research behind it, that these 4 drugs treat this. So I lost 2 of the 4 drugs. Then they added another drug and they said you will have to take treatment for 12 months now because you've lost 2 of the main drugs. Then I reacted to that drug with some inflammation in my joints. And if we had carried that on for a year, it would cause permanent issues, yeah, because it causes scarring. It was affecting certain joints in my body, and which was a known side effect of that drug. So then they had to add another drug, and it was still a 12-month treatment. Even my chest physician in London was a bit they were a bit concerned that, we don't know how this is going to work because I wasn't on standard. So I had a very rough time 1 year. I couldn't work at a slow speed while talking on the mobile. Yeah. I would get really breathless, just like strolling. It was that bad, my lungs. So my friend in India, she is into a lot of spiritual practices. So she gave me The Secret, which is based on the law of attraction. And I had known from before, from my childhood, that whatever I say, whatever I think happens. So it wasn't a completely new concept to me, but I loved how it was laid out. So I started using it. I wrote in a book. She guided me that you have to write and give gratitude in present continuous tense. That thank you to whoever you want to thank. It could be God, it could be universe. She said you have to write it in continuous positive sense, and you have to write only positive words, and you have to write in superlatives like, thank you that my health is amazing. So I wrote down about my lung healing, and I would read it every day because that's what she told me to do. I would read it every day. So this is when I was still having my treatment done. So after 1 year of this treatment, we had a repeat CT scan. So there was actually a concern in the background, at least for the doctors looking after me, that I've had different treatment, but I've had it for 12 months. This disease I called you, it's called bronchiectasis, and the definition has irreversible in it. And on my repeat CT scan, from moderate to extensive bronchiectasis, it went down to mild to moderate bronchiectasis. My chest physician, he was a very experienced chest physician, and he told me, Vidhi, you must write a case report on yourself, because we write case reports when it's unusual or it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen either the first time or it doesn't happen all the time. So you discuss it and you write it up in a journal. So he laughed at me that I don't know what has happened, but he couldn't believe it, that the changes had reversed. But I knew why it was, but I left it at that. In my professional life, I have noticed that when patients come, they could be a fit patient. Say they're young and fit well. They're coming for appendicectomy. They have an inflamed appendix. We need to take it out. So it's not a difficult anesthetic. It is not a difficult surgery. And the people who would come saying that they're really scared, they're really anxious about something. They're worried about complications. And then post-op, it's never smooth sailing in those people under the anesthetic as well. The surgery can be technically difficult. or they misbehave a bit, they're fine, they're safe. But something will happen. And then on the other hand, even people with cancer or really major surgeries, and they have major medical problems, like multiple medical problems, right? Who we would call high risk patients for anesthesia and surgery. So they are the ones that lots of things can go wrong with the heart, with the lungs, the heart can stop, etc. And even when we're explaining this, because we have to tell them the risks before we start. And the people who say things like, nah, you do what you want. I've had a good life. I'm not worried. Or nothing's going to happen to me. Anything on that, on those lines, yeah? They're not worried. They're like, nah,
Yeah.
do what you want. I'm going to be okay. So either they're super optimistic, sometimes very unrealistically optimistic as well. But everything goes as we plan. It goes better than it could have gone. They're sitting in the recovery room and they don't even look like they've had a surgery. They're sitting, they're smiling. I've also noticed this in my personal life, my friends and family. People who have always said they're unlucky or they think bad things happen to them or the world is out to get them. Things happen in their life that even we cannot deny that, yeah, worse things happen to them. And the people who keep on saying they're lucky, good things seem to happen to them. There's some studies which are showing that you could cause up to 70% of your diseases, the physical things, with your mind.
Wow.
I've always liked this kind of neuroscience and the psychology of things. And then these things have happened in my life. I keep seeing that in my patients. So that is not a study, but I've got my own results. This neuroscience has advanced so much in the last 10 years. There is so much research to show that your brain, and now as a therapist, I've seen it in clients, I've seen the results, like even in physical things, not just depression and anxiety. Even in physical disorders like migraines, chronic headaches, like fibromyalgia, actual physical debilitating disorders, and they get better within days of the therapy because you change how the mind works. You can actually command your body. A really big study came out that your cells, human cells, can hear sound. That came out in the last year.
That's fascinating.
And that was in a very prestigious journal. I think it was in Cell or something. You must have experienced that. Have you seen that in people in your life, that people who say they're lucky and people who constantly think they're unlucky? Have you seen or observed that at all?
I mean, absolutely. I see that in so many people, and I see both ends of the spectrum. Having been in the corporate environment for years, you're surrounded by people working with
Yeah.
colleagues, and everyone comes to work with a different perspective. And I mean, I can think of specific examples when I was leading people through change in my last role. Many people react to change with fear, anxiety.
Yeah.
Who's going to be my boss in a couple of months, or is my team even going to be here in a few months? So, there's so much uncertainty with change, right? And I saw people who sat in that fear and anxiety and embraced that as the way they presented themselves in their work. And then I also saw people who looked at change through the lens of opportunity for themselves, not in an egotistical way, but looking at it and saying, okay, yes, I don't really know how this is going to shape out or what my future is going to look like, but how can I embrace this change to create a new path for myself or new opportunities or to help other people? So those two different mindsets definitely lead those two different types of people in very different directions. I can't remember which podcast I was recording recently, but the guest I had on that episode, we basically were saying how you become your thoughts. So that's exactly what you're saying.
100.
You talk yourself into your state of being. So not just your state of mind, but how you are physically showing up in the world. I was having another conversation with someone about energy and how we're all connected by forces of energy, right? And when you are approaching life with that attitude of, yeah, life is beating me down, all the bad things are happening to me, you are giving off this energy maybe it's karma, I don't know. And you just attract certain things to you with that negative energy, right? Whereas
Yeah.
someone coming into the world with this mindset of, yes, bad things happen occasionally because that's life, right? But I'm going to, approach life with the mindset of kind of a realistic optimism. Embrace what I can, any kind of barriers I run into. I'll go through that circumstance with a positive mindset and look at ways to create opportunities rather than look at as a challenge that I can't overcome. The study you were mentioning about your cells listening, or
Yeah.
to talk about that a little bit more.
We'd heard from, I think when I was a child, I was in school, I'm sure, and I'd heard the first time that I heard that the Japanese have started singing to plants. And they've told if you sing to the plants, they grow and flourish. So there's studies about that as well. I've looked them up because I love these things. And there are studies that, they get bigger fruit, more flowers. So that is a real thing. The brain is wired for negativity, right? To pick up negativity. So positivity is a habit because we have evolved. Now the brain doesn't know that we are not at a constant threat. This is still, we're lagging behind in our evolutionary sense. So negativity comes natural to everybody. Yeah. But some of us are born with a slightly more sunny predisposition. Some of us have learned that from our parents. Yeah. So a bit of it is our personality. Some of it's learned, but it is a habit and it can be changed. If somebody is not born with it, it can be changed. One very interesting study was done in, I think it was done in the 70s. It was at Harvard Medical School lab. A neuroscientist did a study, five-finger piano tech study it is called, I think 5 finger. He took 20 people in group who, I think they knew how to play the piano. I'm not sure if they knew or they were just given a piano. And then they were told to practice for 2 hours a day for 5 days only. Yeah. And they were given, I think, at 60 per minute or something, 60 metronome, something like that it's called. So they had to play to a certain rhythm.
Hmm.
2 hours a day, 5 days a week. The part of the brain and the cortex, which has to do with the finger movement, the way it was described in certain studies was it was growing like dandelions. It was like growing like weeds. That part was really, the neurons. There were structural and functional changes in the brain, right? When we learn something, it takes a skill and then it becomes easier, and then that part of the brain gets developed. That's how it becomes automatic. It's like driving. When you learn driving, it's hard, you focus, and then it becomes automatic. So that because that brain has developed new pathways, new wiring, so it has become easy. So that those pathways developed, and there were structural and functional changes in these 20 people. Then the neuroscientist took another 20 people. He didn't give them a piano. He told them to do the exact same thing, 2 hours for 5 days only. And then they were playing an imaginary piano. So they were doing the same thing, but they were playing an imaginary piano. And they had similar functional and structural changes in their brain.
Huh.
The brain and its function is to keep you alive. If I tell you something, Rebecca, that you're very clever, I could have an agenda, right? But when you tell yourself something, there's no agenda, right? That's what your brain believes. When you are telling yourself, it is the truth. So if you tell yourself something, like say somebody in their 40s or 50s, they start to forget something, they don't remember. Oh, my age, I'm starting to get dementia is setting in. I see so many people at work joke about this. Oh, my memory is starting to fail me. I'm just a little old person. Or there's just so many sentences. And then we just repeat these things as a habit or as a part of connection. You pick up phrases and you start saying things. Yeah? There are certain sentences in the hospital setting which I would not use in India, but I use in hospital here because the patients hear that from all the doctors. So certain things are standard. So you pick things up to belong. There's like so many interesting studies. One that comes to mind straight away is when people do weights in the gym, at the gym.
Yeah.
When they do weights. Now, if they could be talking to somebody, people train in groups or something, or they're listening to something and they're not focusing, they're just doing it mindlessly. And then people focused on it. So the same people, they did it mindlessly. And then the same people, they did it mindfully. So they were focusing. See, if they're doing the biceps, they're focusing on the bicep. They're focusing on the muscle contracting. If they're doing the abs, they're focusing on the abs contracting. And then they looked at the result. They had 30% rise, 30% more muscle growth just by thinking about it. Actually, an even interesting study about muscle, they did like a finger and bicep study. So just finger movements and bicep movements without the weights. They were just imagining. And even they had muscle growth. I don't know which muscle group, because one muscle group was 13% and one was 30% or something. So the finger and bicep, I think that was the growth without lifting weights, just imagining that I'm doing this exercise. I mean, I'm not surprised that my lungs healed. I'm not surprised because I focus, I meditate, I visualize my body healing every day. I've been doing it for the last, actually, I started it then, but more so in the last 10 years. And so I think it is really powerful. As a therapist, I think I can help more people if I can get just this message across. This is what I meant when I said earlier that this is what feels like a life purpose to me. As a therapist, I can change how they think. And we also do a part hypnotherapy session. So what we are talking about, positivity comes by habit, right? So it's a habit. When you do it consciously, it takes a little longer, but it is doable. We can do it. But under hypnotherapy, you've calmed the conscious mind down because your subconscious mind is always listening. That is why you manifest things in life, in your body. And when we do that in session, I can, even if I tell them and I say that you're very, your thoughts have changed. You only think positively now. You only focus on positive. Even if a negative thought comes, you don't dwell on it. You can. So the way we teach them is you flip it. If somebody thinks I'm stupid, yeah, I'm useless. That is such a common thing. So many people say that. You just have to flip it, literally flip it every time. But you have to be aware of that. Most people are not even aware of that. I was working with somebody last week at my work. She was my assistant. We have anesthetic assistants. They're called ODPs here. She's fantastic, but she's very recently qualified. She is so sharp. And for her, for being newly qualified, very sharp, very clever, she was working with me that day. Everything was perfect. Nothing was missing. Just little feedback here and there, just tiny things. And that can be just different styles of working as well. So what she had done was not wrong in any way. So many people would have wanted it that way. And she said at least 5 times in our 10-hour day that I'm so rubbish. I'm sorry, I'm rubbish. I'm new at this. I promise I'll get better. And if somebody says 5 times in front of me, imagine how many times they're saying it to themselves. Like, if she made that mistake, I would never think that she was rubbish. None of my colleagues would think that she was rubbish. Suppose I was a mean person and I called her, you're useless. I could have told her, you're useless twice a day. I wouldn't. But if I was, or if I implied, I could have done it a couple of times in the day, right? How many thoughts do you get a day? It goes up to 50, 60,000 thoughts a day. Because we're wired for negativity, majority of those are going to be negative. We're going to be worried. We're going to be anxious about things. Now, if we don't catch ourselves, if you keep on telling yourself, you are going to manifest it. Your body is listening, your cells are listening, and you're manifesting that. And you will think everybody is saying that about you, because that is what you think about yourself. Every person that I work with, and they go back a little happier, they see the changes in literally in a couple of days. You're working with the mind, you're working with subconscious mind. Now, if they get some results, their life changes, their closed one's life changes. Suppose somebody's come in for anger or rage issues or anxiety or depression, suicidal thoughts. The trajectory of their life changes, even with a marginal difference. It is such a powerful thing to do. And this is my calling, I feel. It gives me so much satisfaction in life. It's just like giving hope to everybody. Yeah, that is my calling. It feels like that.
I love that you found your calling. I can feel it in the passion in your voice, that you've really found your life's purpose, and that's wonderful. I guess the final takeaway I'd like to give to my listeners today, just hearing you talk so passionately about this topic, since you've gone through this yourself, you had a really terrible illness, you learned how to really make it a daily habit to give yourself that positive self-talk, positive mentality to help you get through that and end up turning the diagnosis on its head almost. And I'm not saying that that's not going, that's going to happen to everyone, but
No.
clearly there was some impact or influence there. For someone who is maybe listening today and really struggling and just doesn't know how to get out of that mental rut, where would you suggest they even start?
I think first thing I would say is thoughts are very powerful, but I don't think everybody has caused every single disease by thought. Sometimes it's genes, sometimes it's bad luck. So these things are there. I caught it at work. It was an occupational hazard. But I went through the full medical treatment. I did not just rely on my thoughts and positivity. So I am saying as a lifestyle change, yes, this is the biggest thing you can do for yourself. But in no way am I saying that you just need your thoughts and not the treatment. But I wouldn't be worried. I wasn't worried then. I knew I was going to be okay in life. I think this is my personality as well. I was born like this. My parents were super positive. I have never seen them scared of anything. Like I grew up with so little, but we never felt that. They were always, they were always very positive. And interestingly, they were the most positive in their siblings. They both had 4 or 5 siblings, and they were the most, and they did the best in their life. And my father's 81 and he's still very healthy. So I think it goes a long way. So I think, first of all, if one has anything going on in their lives, physical, mental, stress wise, anything, first is the acceptance that this is the situation. And if it is not in your hands, or whether it is, so there's an element of control, not of control. So one is that. But the other thing is being aware of it. Be aware that there is a thing. This is how I think. This is my thought process. So I actually use this at work. I use it every day. I have from 8:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the evening, I have a app on my phone which gives me an hourly chime. It's called Chirps on my phone. Yeah, it's a little bird just goes. I take few seconds. Even if I'm in the middle of something, I will take a few seconds just to breathe, slow down my breathing, and that is all you need. And I just think that, am I anxious? Am I scared? What is happening? And sometimes it is correct to be scared. You can't always. It's not that uh, I get angry, I cry, I get anxious, I panic at times. But it's how long do I want to do it for? Sometimes it could
Yeah.
be just something came from school that, oh God, I forgot to order this for my daughter. That will cause a stress response in the body, right? The chemicals. Now the chemicals hang around the body and they give you that horrible feeling for hours afterwards. They don't go away, which is why breathing and the awareness is so important. At least few times a day, you need to slow down, pause yourself and think, am I happy? Am I not happy? What am I? What am I feeling? And then think, why am I feeling this way? Several times I've gone back and I've found what I was thinking was, oh yeah, it was just that. It feels big in that second when you think of it, and oh yeah, I can just sort it out now, or I can sort it out tomorrow. And then you can go back to feeling good. So I think that one, awareness and breathing, and then you could have affirmations. You could have, if it is about your health, with every breath, I mean, my body knows how to heal itself. It is constantly repairing itself. Our hair, our eyes cells, our liver, our skin, we lose about 100 200 hair a day and we don't go bald. 200 hair a day, and because everything is regenerating. It's constantly regenerating. The body knows how to heal itself. I'm not worried, but I still say those things. I have a practice when I drive to work. I have a half an hour drive. I have certain affirmations I will say. And if I'm stuck in traffic, I will never go, oh God, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm going to be 20 minutes late. It is, the attitude has changed in the last 10 years, that it used to be, oh God, oh God. Now it is, oh, okay, more time to meditate, or more time to, be thoughtful, mindful. So I would say one is acceptance of whatever is going on. Be aware, this is there. Now I want to change this. So how do I change it? I can change it by talking about it constantly, that this is wrong in my life. Oh my God, my husband does this. Oh my God, my children won't listen. Or do I want to flip it? You have to see the exact opposite positive thing in your head. Now, if you're worried about your health, that something is hurting, again, get medical advice. We're not asking or telling anybody to stop their medication or anything, but help it. Or when you take a medicine, you worry about the side effects. Oh God, every time I take this happens. So you are blessing the medication that go and do this even more in my body. You can say, you can just thank you because you're taking a tablet. Say, suppose somebody's taking a tablet for diabetes, take the tablet, but say, thank you for curing my diabetes. Thank you for keeping my diabetes in control. Just see that, look at the bottle and say that. Or have a system, have some sort of system. Like I have a system at work, not at home, at work. I drink a lot of water in the morning. So till 12:30, I have to go to the washroom several times. Yeah, at work. So every time you go, I have to breathe a few times and I have to say something. So I pick my affirmation for the day. So, but you slow down, you say. So I never go to my work washroom without saying certain things. So you can come up with your own system, what you want in your life and how badly you want in your life. But you can't say, I want this badly. That is lack. You are thanking that you've already got it. And things will work out for it. I grew up with so little. I grew up being such an average student. Everybody was surprised when I got into medicine, like everybody. I didn't know it then, but I was using the secret and law of attraction even then, even as a child. I had just stumbled onto it. But I think the thing that I was given was positivity by my parents. And I was mindful. I was a very quiet child. I was an introverted child. So I was quiet most of the times. And there were no mobiles, luckily. And television came when I was in my year 8. So I was lucky to have that time and my thoughts, nothing else to do because I didn't want to play with the noisy kids outside. So I just stumbled onto it. But I think the amount of things I've achieved in my life, I've just always visualized. And then your brain will make you work towards it. Because your body is listening, your brain is listening, your actions will change. So yeah, I think that is just change. So be aware of your thoughts. And then flip it to what you want it to be. But don't say, I wish that doesn't happen to me. I wish that person is not mean to me is not the way to go about it. Just visualize that person being nice to you. Some people who used to treat me like absolute, it was, I would be scared to go. I would cry, but then I changed it. I would visualize on that day, if I know I'm working with this particular person, I would change it. I didn't know what dialogue was happening, but I would just visualize that. I would just, the energy, the vibes that, yeah, he's smiling, I'm smiling. And it would go that way. Say thank you that they have done this, or thank you that now they treat me nicely. And come back to me if you don't have any results from that. I will be really surprised if it doesn't work.
I love that advice. It's like you're manifesting your own destiny, essentially.
Self-talk, yeah, because it is about self-talk, isn't it? We talk about being kind and empathetic to other people, and it should start with us. Be kind to yourself. If you make a mistake, say, yeah, I'll get it right next time. So it's about self-talk. My body is healing. Whatever you say, your body is listening, whether it's about your accomplishments, your physical health, mental health. So just change the negativity to positivity.
Well, that is a wonderful way to wrap up this dialogue, Vidhi. I feel like I have so many takeaways that from this conversation that I can take with me throughout my day today and the rest of the week. I hope all my listeners got something out of this conversation. So if anyone's interested in learning more about what you do and wants to reach out to you, how would they be able to connect with you, Vidhi?
So it will be, I'm just actually in process of setting up my social media, but it's doctor, the spelling of doctor, DOCTO, Dr. Vidhi Therapist. That is what it is on all the social media, on Instagram, on YouTube, and also the same at gmail.com.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and hopefully we can all be more aware of the conversations we're having with ourselves, and hopefully that'll help bring more positivity into this world.
No, thank you for having me, Rebecca. It was a pleasure.
This podcast is designed to help busy business leaders create an inspired and engaged workforce. I am building a community of like-minded leaders and experts who all share the same passion, taking care of people at work. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. If you know someone who I should interview or should be part of this community, please connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Life is too short. Let's take care of each other at work so that together we can make this world a better place.